The number one question I get almost every day is, how do you know when to stretch? And the answer to that is going to come up later in this video. The fact of the matter is most of us have been trained, and I mean trained starting in elementary school or grade school, forward about stretching. Not much emphasis was put on stretching only if you feel tight or if you've had an injury, or if it just was an afterthought kind of thing. And in fact, if you remember back, if you're older than 50, if you remember back, most of the coaches that we had, I don't think most of them could have touched their toes if you'd give them $1 million. But the thing is that when you look at stretching back, if you're like, again, before 50, if you look back to the stretches we did in grade school and high school, and then look at what we're doing today for stretching, what you'll see is very little change. And so today, what I want to talk about is when are the best times to stretch, how to stretch properly, and understand why you need to stretch every day. Welcome back to the Muscle Repair Shop. My name is Butch Phelps, and today I want to talk about when is the best time to stretch and why do I need to stretch anyway? This is probably the question I get more often than anything else that I see on a daily basis. So stretching by nature, we think about stretching as we're pulling taffy, as we visualize us pulling our muscles apart. And it really becomes like a tug of war. Well, you know, in a tug of war, if I'm on one side of the rope and you're on the other, we're pulling against each other, what are we doing? We are engaging our muscles and pulling as hard as we can against the other person, and what we're actually doing is strength training. Well, the same is true in most of the stretching that people do every day. And so what happens is that as I take my body and I try to contort it in positions and force it to be in those positions, now my brain thinks that someone's attacking me even though it's me doing the work, and it starts to contract the muscles for fear I could possibly hurt myself. Now, the thing is that when you think about stretching, stretching is more about releasing tension in the body. Now, we've heard of static stretching and dynamic stretching. Of course, static stretching is what we used to do in school, where we would take our body and we'd pull and hold and hold and hold 15, 20, 30 seconds at a time with the hope that somehow the muscles in my body here would just release and let go, like they had some ability to actually be able to think like that. Now that would require then that the muscle has a brain, and we know that's just not true, that in our bodies we only have one brain, and that's in our head. But the idea is that if I hold it long enough, I can force this muscle to let go, especially if I put more pressure on it. So if a little bit feels good, well man, if I really crank on it, a lot's going to feel so much better. And this is where so many people wind up hurting themselves, creating an injury like a pulled muscle or a strained muscle in their body. Not to mention, in this particular stretch, as you come across your body, you think you're stretching here, but reality is you're building the bicep on this side. Dynamic stretching is where you take the body and you're sort of pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping, and what you think you're doing is that you're coaxing the muscle into letting go. What's actually happening with the pumping sensation, you're actually putting warm blood into the muscle tissue, which causes the muscle tissue to warm up and become more pliable. And yeah, you'll get a little extra movement out of it, but in actual stretching, you haven't really changed anything on a more permanent basis. Now, the best way to think about stretching is the analogy I always use. Stretching is like eating. No matter how much you eat today, no matter how good the food is today, tomorrow you'll get hungry. How many of you go to the mirror and look in your eyes and go, oh my gosh, I must be sick. I ate all day yesterday, but somehow I'm hungry today. Something must be wrong. That's exactly what we do with the muscles. So when you think about the muscles and you look at them not just from a physical standpoint, But from an emotional standpoint, what you start to understand is that every thought that you have, every movement that you make, you are constantly tightening your muscles 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Think about this. How does your body change from when you're chilled out, happy, to when you're pissed off and you're mad? There's a big change there, right? What changed? The state of mind. You didn't do anything different with your body, but by changing the state of mind, the muscles in your system changed, and now the body is in a more heightened state if you went from happy to angry. Well, the same is true in every other thing that you do in your life. So stretching then becomes more of a daily habit. Daily habit meaning, watch your dog or cat. Every single day they'll stretch several times a day, and yet they innately know to do that. Why don't we? Why don't we? Because we're never told to really do that. We don't even understand why we need to do that. And so the purpose of stretching then is, when you start to understand, is about how to lubricate the joints, how to lubricate the disc, how to take the tension, most importantly, out of the muscles, which takes the pressure off the muscles themselves. And then once you do that, you reduce your risk of injury. If you're in athletic events, when you increase the flexibility, you increase the pliability, now the strength that you've worked hard and the stamina you've worked hard to gain, you can use the full range of motion to use all of it, which means you're going to perform better with less risk of injuries on a daily basis. That's the whole reason behind stretching. It's not so you can do a split. It's not so you can bend over backwards and touch your nose to your heels as you bend over backwards. No. Stretching is about releasing tension in the body, because when you think about the muscles are the only thing in your body that can apply pressure to bones, nerves, blood vessels, and so forth. Think of a quadriplegic. A quadriplegic has all the bones, has all the nerves, has all the blood vessels you and I have, yet they can't get up off the bed to stand up. Why? Their muscles aren't working. Their muscles can't apply pressure to the bones to make that happen. But the mistake is we're so focused in on the bones that we don't even realize that the muscles are creating injuries that later damage bones and joints. And when we learn about stretching and learn how to do it properly, we can change that in down the future. And if you're older and you already have some damage, you can now take some of that pressure off, for instance. How do you do it? Number one, when you are stretching, you want to feel stretching, not pulling the muscle. I'm not trying to pull my arm and force it over here, but what I want to feel is, as I come over here and I start to feel a little bit of tension, for instance, in this particular stretch, I want to make sure that what I'm feeling is, I want to breathe, relax, and allow that tension to just relax, and allow my shoulders to just relax into it. Spend about 5 seconds breathing out, allowing it to relax. And then you'll repeat this 10 times, but each time hold it that 5 seconds and relax. Now, the reason for the 5 seconds is not to kick in the stretch reflex, which will fight back with you. And the 10 repetitions is you're teaching your brain, I can do this and I didn't die. So if you do that on a regular basis, and instead of focusing on feeling the muscle pull apart, you feel the muscle and just let it go, what you'll find is that the body then will start to move freer with less pain and less injuries. Now, keep in mind with muscles, wherever the pain is rarely the cause of the pain. Where the pain is, go to the opposite side or the opposite end. For instance, if the back of my neck hurts, I'm probably tight here and I'm probably tight here. If my low back hurts, I'm probably tight here or in my hip flexors on the front side. Once I solve that, I take the compression out of my spine, pain goes away. That's a key thing to remember with muscles, because everyone is trained with muscles that wherever the site of the pain is, that's where you go. Think about it. You go to a therapist, you go to a doctor and say, my back hurts back here. where do they all go? They go to the back. Why? Because that's how they're trained. That's how I was trained in school as well. But the truth of the matter is, this pain here is coming from this side 99% of the time, unless you had some sort of a trauma to the back. These are things to remember when you're stretching. So when do you need to stretch? I would stretch every day. Now the way I stretch is I get up first thing in the morning, because after turning back and forth in my bed, having dreams at night, my muscles will have contracted and be tight first thing in the morning. So when I get up, one of the first things I do is I love to stretch. 15-20 minutes. And late in the evening before I go to bed, I've been busy all day, my muscles are tight from all the working and the thoughts that run through my head all day long. I want to stretch at the end of my day. Now, if you have time and you want to stretch in the middle of the day, which sometimes I do, you can even stretch in the middle of the day. And this is for the rest of your life. 15-20 minutes in the morning, 15-20 minutes in the evening, and what you will find if you follow these stretches that I teach on these videos is that you will have better movement in your body. Many of the common aches and pains that people have, especially as they age, will start to dissipate. And you can go back and enjoy your life. And I don't care if you're 60, 70, 80, 90 years of age. I've had people up to 98 years of age that I've worked on with this, and it's helped all of them. But you have to be consistent, and you have to learn how just to release the tension. Don't focus on pulling this apart. So if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe down below, ring the bell, share this with your friends, and each Monday you'll get a new video after you subscribe. But for now, see ya.